Hey there, everybody. Parks Ousley here, and I'm joined by Fudge, the mid laner for Cloud9. A little difficult week for you all this super week. A 1-2 record, not what we were expecting. The good news is, 100 Thieves also lost today.
Right.
You are guaranteed second place. You might even have a tiebreaker if Team Liquid lose.
Right.
So you're guaranteed top two. That feels pretty good. But also the loss feels
could feel a little bit better.
Yeah. So talk me through, what happened right after the game. How's the team kind of feeling right now after the loss?
I would say everyone's obviously really disappointed, but to be honest, our expectations weren't extremely high coming into this week, just because our scrim week was really bad, and we sort of felt like our mistakes were very, I guess, obvious, which was we die randomly a lot in mid-game. Even in early game, sometimes we die randomly, but I would say mostly in mid-game we die randomly a lot and make a lot of really coin flip decisions. So I think that sort of showed this weekend, where we're playing against teams that are supposed to be worse than us, but we're sort of, making the small errors constantly throughout the game, and it just leads to bad outcomes where we lose Soul Point, for example, against FlyQuest. Stuff like that.
Talking about the scrim thing again, I think you tweeted out something about it was like 0-15.
Yep.
Was that literally the record, 0-15?
Yeah, we scrimmed our academy team, EG, NTL, and we went 0-15. So it was a rough week of scrims, that's for sure. So that's why, going into this week, weren't extremely confident. It was a little hit to our confidence, which is, I honestly don't think it's that bad before playoffs. I think that getting us really motivated to improve a lot and prepare a lot against these teams in playoffs. We're not really cocky at all. Obviously now, pretty hard to be cocky now. It's I would say a pretty good wake up call, honestly, before playoffs.
So yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Was what is the atmosphere like?
Right.
So you've basically answered that, but is there anything more that you want to touch on about heading into this week? Because next week, a 1-2 puts you, one game away from lower bracket. Luckily, you also still have at least 2 series ahead of you. But the goal is to get back to MSI.
Right.
So what is the kind of, where's the team's headspace right now?
Well, I think it's hard to tell for the entire team. I think generally because me and Blabber maybe more, well, me, Blabber, and Summit are more experienced, but we sort of understand that it's not really about the seeding of the playoffs. It's more about how good we are once we get to the best of 5, And I think that us losing helps us improve the most out of anything, just because as players, I think most League of Legends players they sort of ignore their mistakes until it really costs them a game, That's what it feels like. So I'm pretty happy that we're actually losing games, because even though we were winning games a lot during this regular season, we actually were making a lot of the same mistakes, but we were sort of just getting away with it. We're outplaying the last team fights, where we lost this game, right, in some of the team fights, but in other games we would just win. A lot of the other games we would just win the last team fight, even though there was a lot of really, really big mistakes that we're still making. And I think it's a good outcome that we lost these games. I think it's going to force us to improve a lot for playoffs.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the improvement, because I want to see NA smash some teams internationally. So even if it's not you, if you improve a bunch, then you're a bigger opponent.
I'm helping my teammates, my teammates, aka the LCS, improve.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all about that. I'm an LCS shill, and I'll be loud about it, especially in 3 weeks or a month or whatever.
Very loud, yeah.
So maybe this would give away too much strategy. So if so,
sure,
just deny the question.
Sure.
But kind of with what you've been talking about and looking at the team comps today from the FlyQuest game, you all had a team that if you're going to team fight, you have to find flanks and find really creative angles to get in, which you had some, and sometimes it did work. The team fights that you did win, you had good angles. But Cloud9 or FlyQuest team was yo, we've got Malphite Nautilus, just run into us and we will blow you up. We've got the MF ult. Do you feel like you need to be drafting more towards, if you're just going to be looking for the late game team fights and that's how you're going to win? Do you feel like that's something that maybe you should kind of prep for more and draft for more, or is it just this is regular season, you're still trying to correct the mistakes and you're not too worried about it?
I wouldn't say that we have to necessarily change our entire draft. I do think that we're clearly drafting champions that require more execution. Lisa and LeBlanc, for example, extremely execution heavy, and you have to find these really creative angles, like you said, right? I personally want to continue to play the style at the same time as playing the opposite style, which is like the Victor scale into the late game, which I feel like I'm already pretty decent at, which is why, like for example, against TL, we played that style. We played Victor, Jinx, Tom, and we just scaled, and they were playing the early game aggressor, with like Jax and Ryze, and we won. And I think that usually in LCS, teams will just win when they're playing the scaling most of the time, just because every team, not just us, is not very good at executing the really, really hard comps. But I do think that to be able to play against international teams, we have to be able to execute these really hard situations, because we will be put in very tough situations against really good teams, right? So I personally find that it's good to practice these ideas around early game, just to help us get through early game when we're on the scaling side, because we understand what the enemy team needs to do, but also if we're put in the situation where we need to get ahead early game, we understand how to play it.
Okay, cool. I want to do a kind of split and review for you as a mid laner, and just kind of like a reflection about your growth over the split, where you are now compared to where you wanted to be.
Right.
I think you said something about like you wanted to be a top 3 mid by playoffs, I think, or by finals or something.
I wanted to be the best mid by playoffs, right?
Best mid, okay.
Right.
So where do you think you are?
I think honestly right now I'm probably around like top 3. I would say like Bjergsen and Jojo we're all 3 pretty similar. I would say we all have different strengths. Bjergsen is usually very, very consistent. I think he never really dies.
That's true.
Which isn't necessarily always the best thing, right? Like playing really safe is sometimes bad, but I would say a lot of the time he makes like a really safe decision that just helps his teammates play the game. He's more like facilitating his teammates. I would say Jojo is like the complete opposite. Jojo will, at least from my experience, die to every single gank, and he will most of the time win 1v1. And I think that I'm sort of in the middle. I would say like I'm like generally pretty safe. I sometimes like die randomly, but I'm also just like, a little, sometimes, I'm just very safe and play like the less risky way. And I would say like, it's hard to tell which one is like really better. And obviously like it depends on what champions you're playing as well. Like Jojo really good at LeBlanc, because like it's a champion that can't really die to ganks, but can also be like really, really aggressive at the same time. And I would say like Bjergsen's really good at fucking Corki, he's just gonna fucking scale up and just ulti everyone. Zillion, Yeah. He's really good at facilitating his teammates, stuff like that. So I would say I don't think I'm like as dominating as I would like to be. I definitely would want to be a lot better, especially if I want to go internationally. There's no way that I'm gonna be able to like go even in lane right now. If I'm going even in lane against LCS players, I don't think I'm gonna go even in lane against LCK players,
And it's going to be Faker.
Right. It's going to be Faker. It's definitely going to be Faker. Definitely going to be Faker.
What do you think about the Fudge versus Faker matchup?
Honestly, Faker's really good. I don't have a bunch of confidence right now. I just went 1-2 in the LCS. So
pretty good.
I don't have too much confidence against T1. They're like undefeated. So I would say it's going to be a hard matchup. Definitely.
You've got some time.
Got some time, yeah. 2 months or something.
Yeah.
Probably best Faker.
Got some time. Last question, and I'll let you head out. Do you want to say anything to Cloud9 fans about what is seemingly a somewhat sudden decline in the team play? Any sort of like positive message for the fans out there who are hoping to see you get to play against Faker?
Yeah. I would just say that even though we are losing now, I would say that if we were to win these games, I think we would improve a lot less for playoffs. And I think it's actually a good thing that we lost these games. I think it will help us improve all our really, really big errors that we're making every single game. And I think that's sometimes you got to look at the positive part of, the loss, And I think that that's probably the thing that's going to help us win the split the most is these losses this weekend.
Awesome. Good to hear. Fans will be back in the stadium next week.
Can't wait.
So you'll get to see some of them. That'll be super exciting. Thank you all so much for watching. Please check out the rest of the content, and we will catch you next time.